I recently released my January 2024 free-to-play farming guide for Lord of the Rings Heroes of Middle-earth, and today we're going to be going through the free-to-play account that I created that's helped me make a lot of the decisions and come to some of the conclusions that I came to in creating that farming guide. We're going to take a quick look at the farming guide just to recap a couple of the things that I talked about in the farming guide video, but there will be a card up in the top right hand corner of this video linking you to that farming guide, and I'll probably also link to the glyph guide that I created as well. In the farming guide video, I talk about sort of three pillars to the farming guide, and the first pillar is getting Elrond unlocked. The second pillar is getting your account set up for the Thorin unlock. And the third pillar is finishing out a few of your raid teams. Looking at the guide, you will notice that I have specifically not included a lot of characters. And that's because as an early game player, new player, free-to-play player, you really have to be very stingy with your resources. And the goal of this guide was to try to figure out how to efficiently get the Elrond unlock, as well as put together some raid teams without overdeveloping your roster with a bunch of characters that you won't use. I know there are some people out there who are just big hero collectors. They don't really care about efficiency. And certainly, I don't want to try to force you into a box and tell you you have to do something a certain way. The idea of this farming guide is really just to help those who want to be super efficient and just to show that there is a specific path forward. The big things that I'm working on my free-to-play account, and we're going to look at my roster in a second, are the trying to get to the phase 3, which I am at phase 3 now for the light campaign team, and then also trying to get to the phase 3 for the shadow campaign team. And I do have those phase 3 characters unlocked, but it's going to take a while for me to get those characters built up because I am going for the Elladan unlock before Arwen. One thing you'll see when we go into the roster review is I have started working on my goblins a little bit. I know it might be a little bit premature for an account as early as mine. It's level 45 to be going after the goblins, but they're actually scoring me 100k in most of the raid chapters, which isn't a lot, but it's enough to at least get started. And I think that it's good to at least kind of have those nodes open and start getting them where I want them to be. It hasn't taken a lot of resources to get them kind of up and running at 1 or 2 stars, and the focus right now clearly is light campaign and shadow campaign, but we'll look at those. The big point I want to drive home here is I worked really hard to put this farming guide together using an actual free-to-play account. So I'm trying to mimic what I think you should be doing in my own account. I hope that goes a long way to foster some confidence in what you're seeing in this farming guide. I know that some people have had some comments about things like using Legolas just because it takes so long to farm him in the arena store. And that's fine. Again, I've provided Leliel as an option, and I think we're going to be getting Rumil and Orphan soon. So, you're going to see things in here that you might disagree with, but just know that everything that's in this guide is coming from a free-to-play account that I've created to try to do this the way a new player might. So let's take a walk through the account screen, and I'll go in and show you some of the progress that I've made in the various challenges, the campaigns. We can talk about sort of the supplies that I've been buying, and then we can take a look at my collection. Lost artifacts, I am at the 400 tier, so tier 4. Haven't quite gotten to level 50. Battle experience, I do have tier 6 unlocked. I'm just waiting on it to come back around. I did try it a little bit today, but I didn't have enough time to push through it. So I might actually give this a try again tomorrow. I know that experience is a big bottleneck for my main account, so it's definitely something I want to get maxed out as quickly as possible. Another one that I believe I can push through is tier 4 for Dark Relics. Forged in the Deep, I'm finished with tier 4. I'm not really concerned about getting past tier 4 right now. Obviously, when I get to level 50, I definitely want to get to tier 5 because I'll get an extra light crystal, but I don't really care about the purple, the luminous crystals right now. Not a big priority for the account. Treasure Trove, I'm looking forward to being able to max this one out. Gold's always a bottleneck, but I do have tier 5 finish. And then Wondrous Abilities, I'm waiting to get back around to this one again because I did hit 45 a couple of days ago, and I'm really hoping that I have a good enough team with my attackers to get through this one. Those purple mats are going to be amazing. I'm really happy with the progress that I've made with that. I'm not really touching Gardener's Journey right now. I have done a few of the nodes there, but Road to Rivendell is not a focus for me. Arena, I haven't tried too hard in, but I've made it into silver, and my shard, I haven't even figured out who or which shard this account is in. I'm not super focused on the PvP piece. Raids, I guess I can show you. We're actually on chapter 4 right now. So I'm doing about 780k in chapter 1, about 427k in chapter 2, about 700k in chapter 3. Chapter 4, not going to be able to see that one yet because I haven't done my attempts, but we can get in here and check my previous attempts. So they're on D1, but you can do the math yourself. These aren't really great. I'm doing around 100k, maybe a little bit more in this chapter. It's kind of tough for early accounts. Really happy with the progress again. I'm doing over 1 million, 1.5 million. Maybe somebody will add that up for me. I've got a lot of work to do on the quest. Obviously, I'm sort of bottlenecked with this one here because it's going to take a while to get 5 light characters to 5 stars. I am going to unlock Robel soon just to go ahead and get this one taken care of. It's nice to get those extra Strider shards. And then we have the Sam journey, which it might actually be worth going ahead and completing some of this if I can. And it looks like I just got my refresh, so I can show you what I typically purchase. I always scroll to the bottom first. I'm looking for glyphs. And particularly, I'm looking for Last Stand, Bloodlust, maybe Withering and Armor Piercer. I do have the gold, and I can always sell these back to sort of break even. So I'm going to go ahead and prospect these Withering and Armor Piercers. And then, of course, I'm buying anything that costs 500 gold because it's a relatively low cost. And you're always needing these to get your characters from Gear 1 to Gear 4. So I'll buy all those, and then let's see who needs this. Yeah, I should know that. Token 2 is needed by a ton of characters. So we'll grab that. Essences. I buy these sometimes. I'll go ahead and buy a couple of them now. I have been trying to take a couple of characters up to Gear 6. And every now and then I will buy the Luminous Crystals here. For Guild, I did unlock Bifur here. We'll talk about some of the things that might be perceived inefficiencies with the account. I did spend a decent amount of Guild tokens on Bifur, but right now I'm just focusing on Wubete, and sometimes I'll buy the rare ability materials for the challenge store. And this is something that I had talked about in the farming guide as well. The only thing that makes a ton of sense to buy here, at least for most accounts, is going to be Tebeb the Sage and the essences. The rest of these items like the green leaves, Bolg, Halberd, probably aren't worth buying. You will notice that I've made the decision to buy Halberd to 2 stars. I'm just going to test whether post glyphs he is viable at all for a super early account. in terms of the raid. He's a taunt character and he can heal, and I think that that makes him relatively valuable in chapter 3. I know that I'm using him as a 4-star character. He's got 4 or 5,000 power on my primary account in a couple of chapters just because of that. So he'll probably get phased out soon because I've got a ton more 7-star characters, but I'm just going to test that out. So just note that he will not go much further than this. I'm actually probably not going to buy this because it's 10 shards for 3,000. My plan is to get 5 more shards of Halberd. We'll test that out. And then if I do buy a character in the future, it's going to be Tabeb. And then for Arena, I talked about this in the farming guide as well. I got Aemir to 2 stars, and I've been strictly focusing. I did get Golbers up to 2 stars as well, but for the most part, I'm strictly focusing on Legolas. At this point in time, every single arena token that I get will be going into Legolas. I think it's really important to try to get him to 5 stars very quickly for the Elrond unlock. And then for raid currency, there's really not too much you want to buy here for early game accounts. The luminous crystals and the shadow crystals are very important. And then scrolling down, the essences are pretty good to buy here. It's actually a really good deal to purchase those. Everything else really not worth buying. You might be able to make an argument that these illusion 1 spells are worth buying for your glyphs. I think a lot of people don't realize this is down here, and it is sort of a difficult item to get with your personal track in the raid. So it's worth looking at these to potentially purchase them. Okay, so should probably go ahead and do this while we're at it. Okay, we get some Aethane. Don't really care for him right now. Aethane's a great character, part of the Rohan trio. So here's the account, and let me sort by power, and I'll just give you a scroll through so you can see what I have so far. There's the Halberd, there's Lord Balin. I'm not farming any of these characters. I'll probably end up hitting F2 at some point just to get him unlocked. Robel, I'm trying to unlock for that quest. Morza, I'm not focusing on. I know that's one of the optional characters in the farming guide. Leliel, another optional character in the farming guide. The Brute, optional character. I'm not going to be farming Brute or Leliel right now. Killian Philly, I'm leaving them where they are. I do believe that I have both of their nodes unlocked. We can take a look at that maybe in a minute. Eladin is sort of the primary focus right now. I do want to get Goblin Chef's node completed at 3 stars. I think I'm pretty close to that. Bekaloo, at some point I'll get around to in the guild campaign. I actually just unlocked chapter 4 in the guild campaign recently, but I've been trying to focus all of my energy on getting the elves farmed there, Elrohir and Naramiri. Lord Balin and Bifur, let's talk about them for a moment. So they're 2 other characters that I have as optional in the farming guide, and I'm farming Lord Balin because I think it's important to have him on your account at 3 stars. He's incredibly useful in chapter 4 of the raid. That's something that I've talked about in multiple videos at this point. He truly is the free-to-play account savior because he can cleanse in chapter 4, primarily, but also he just offers a lot of utility. And then Bifur, I think that Bifur offers a couple of great utility items for different chapters. Primarily, Sticky Situation allows him to slow large characters, so he can slow the troll. And then he also can dispel boons, so he's a pretty good character to use in Chapter 2. I would say this is the biggest inefficiency in the account, other than probably farming Halberd. But I don't think you're going to go wrong farming any of the dwarves. And the nice thing is, at least for an account like this that's super undeveloped, Bifur, Bomber, Bilbo, they all can kind of go together in sort of a fifth raid team for me, just so that I can fill everything out and try to maximize my attempts. And then Gimli might actually be an inefficiency you could consider, but I think that the synergy with Legolas just makes him worth unlocking. And also, it was a guild campaign thing, so it didn't take a ton of extra energy, I think, to get him unlocked at 3 stars. And I will be leaving Bifur Gimli at 3 stars. Once I get Lord Balin unlocked, I will leave him at 3 stars for now as well. And I've actually stopped farming his shards because I've just been so hyper focused on the elves lately. And you'll see that I think there were some quests where you had to get characters to gear level 5. And that's on Shadow and Light. So I had to get Dunhar, Wubete, Malhir, Ugluk, and Gaz Ironhide to gear 5. I'll probably work on Naraz to gear 5 as well, because he's going to be needed later on in the Shadow campaign. He's that phase 3 missing link. And I'll be working on Naraz. I had unlocked Aakk somewhere in here, and I was thinking about using him. I put some glyphs on him. I really haven't invested much into him. I am gonna spend most of my time working on Naraz. The other thing that I could pivot to at some point, I'm not sure yet, is if they make Great Goblin free to play farmable, instead of using Gaz in that 5th slot, it might make a lot of sense to use Great Goblin as your 5th for that particular Shadow Node 5-3. That's something that I'm going to be working on in future iterations of the farming guide, is trying to figure out even more efficient paths to get certain things unlocked. So you might see some transitions. I'm not sure how much sense it makes to try to use goblins as your campaign team, just because you may not get 3 stars, since goblins they're not meant to die, but if they do die, there's that mechanic where they're bringing in, they're summoning a new character. So it's something you have to sort of be careful of. But at any rate, the big goal or item that I'm working towards right now, you can see what I have favorited. So when I have leftover energy right now, I might hit Naraz, Lomian, Orphers. Actually, I just finished Orphers to 2 stars, and so he's going off of there. I think I was using Orphers for just to complete one of the daily objectives, so I was giving him some gear. Might come back to him. I'm also trying to get Gimli to gear tier 4 as well. The thing about gear tier is, so you kind of start with, you just have your basic ability and special 1, and in order to unlock your special 2 and your passive ability, you have to go up to higher gear tiers. So gear tier 3 for the special 2, and then gear tier 4 for your passive. So I'm working on that for Gimli because I think it'll help him just a little bit in the raid. Some of these characters, you'll see I unlocked some marquees and I added glyphs to them, because the glyphs have made it way easier to finish the free to play tier of the marquee, where you're getting a little bit of rewards back. I think that that is incredibly helpful for a free-to-play account that's trying to build their roster out to get those 3-star marquees. Obviously, they're not going to be as impactful down the road, but certainly worth doing. Now we're in guild campaign. You can see I've unlocked some of the key nodes. Got iron hides on farm. Pretty much everything in chapter 1 is on farm. Chapter 2, same thing. I have been working on Naramiri, and then same thing for chapter 3. Elro here, I have it 5 stars. Chapter 4, I'm not in a big hurry to finish up right now. I do want to get to chapter 5 soon, but I have to get to player level 53. It's just not that big of a priority at this point. I'm really just trying to spend all of my time in the light campaign. The shadow campaign, I am pretty close to this Chef Kraska unlock, but it's not really a big deal. The ultimate goal is to get into chapter 5. I'll have to see whether my shadow team is going to be good enough to do that. Obviously, I've got to get a couple more levels before I can get there. So I've sort of stumbled my way through this chapter. I did go ahead and get our friend Killy unlocked, or at least I have his node ready so that we can get him unlocked. And I beat the Alreda node, which was cool, but I'm trying to beat this last stand node, which is incredibly difficult. I can show you what that looks like with this elf team, but I've really hit a roadblock here. And I think, this is where I talked about these characters are probably going to need to be gear tier 6 or 7, and they need to be level 50 at a minimum. Probably 4 or 5 stars, most likely 5 stars. I've got some work to do on that front. I'm hoping to get Legolas to 4 stars in the next 5 to 7 days. And for sure, I will have Naramiri at 5 stars in the next not couple of days, but definitely in the next week. So hopefully those things are going to push me over the top. Let's fight this node really quick, and then we can wrap the video up. You can see there's just really not a lot of sustain. They just destroyed Arwen there. One thing that I will try to do on these nodes is just hit auto and see how far the team will get on auto. The important thing here is to just beat the node. You're not necessarily trying to get a 3-star here. I'm just trying to get to the Elodin node, and then we're going to sit there forever until we get the 3 stars on it. So as you can see, I'm still not quite ready to complete this node, which means I'm definitely not anywhere close to completing the Elodin node, but I'm going to continue to push this elf team and see kind of what the bare minimum is for you to be able to get the Elodin unlock. And I think I'll end up adding that to the farming guide, the next iteration, just so that you can get an idea for what your expenditure is going to be, or what you're going to have to put together to be able to beat this. So there's my roster. I hope you enjoyed sort of a inside look into what I've been trying to do in order to put the farming guide together. I know the farming guide took a little bit longer than I thought it was going to build, because I wanted to make sure I was getting everything right in terms of my recommendations. And obviously that takes some time, considering I'm trying to do it through my own free-to-play account. I was also hoping that maybe we would get some news on Rumil and Orphan, but obviously that didn't come to pass. I had originally planned to make this sort of a docu-series where we follow along from day 1 of the account all the way through to the Elrond unlock. I just felt like it would make more sense just to sort of do a roster review, and so there's a lot of footage that's just not going to get shown to you right now. I think it makes more sense just for you to kind of get a window into where the account is and see what progress I've made. And I'll definitely be sharing some update videos as I hit some milestones on this free to play account. With that being said, Quantum out.